What if the blueprint for the end of the world was not first written in the Book of Revelation, but centuries earlier in secret by a mysterious brotherhood of desert ascetics? In 1947, a Bedouin shepherd stumbled upon a cave near the Dead Sea, uncovering a treasure trove of ancient manuscripts that would rewrite our understanding of history, the Dead Sea Scrolls. For decades, these fragile parchments were the subject of intense scholarly debate. But hidden within the familiar biblical texts were shocking, previously unknown documents, the secret writings of a community known as the Essenes. They spoke of a teacher of righteousness, a cosmic war between the sons of light and the sons of darkness, and a detailed, terrifying vision of the final days. These Qumran prophecies predate Christianity, yet they contain stunning parallels to the teachings of John the Baptist and Jesus Christ, and even the apocalyptic imagery of Revelation. Did the Essenes know the future? Was their hidden library the true source for many of the New Testament's most dramatic prophecies? This is the story of a forgotten vision of the apocalypse and its silent, unacknowledged influence on the world's belief in the end times. The year is 1947. In the blistering heat of the Judean desert, a young Bedouin shepherd, searching for a stray goat, casts a stone into a dark fissure in the limestone cliffs. He hears an unexpected sound, the shattering of pottery. Curiosity overcomes caution. Inside, the air is still and thick with the dust of millennia. His eyes adjust to the gloom, revealing a cache of tall clay jars lining the wall. Most are empty, but a few remain sealed. Prying one open, he finds not treasure, but brittle, linen-wrapped bundles. These are the first of what will become known as the Dead Sea Scrolls. The scrolls themselves are a puzzle-cracked parchment and papyrus covered in a strange, ancient script. Unwittingly, this shepherd has stumbled upon a library frozen in time, a direct link to a lost Jewish sect living 2,000 years ago. He has no idea that these fragile documents contain apocalyptic prophecies and theological ideas that will challenge our understanding of ancient history. The discovery is a spark in the darkness, promising a grand revelation about a community that prepared for the end of the world on the shores of the Dead Sea. From the desolate caves, we move to the source. Khirbet Qumran, a sun-bleached plateau overlooking the Dead Sea. Here, a community of devout ascetics known as the Essenes established their unique society. They called themselves the Sons of Light, separating themselves from what they saw as the corrupt world of Jerusalem. Their days were governed by a strict, communal discipline. Life began before dawn with prayer and ritual immersion in purifying baths or mikvesh. They ate their meals in silence, a sacred act of fellowship. Property was held in common. The individual submitted to the will of the group. This was a society organized for a single purpose: to live a life of perfect holiness and to prepare for the final, imminent battle between good and evil. Their architecture reflects this purpose: communal dining halls, a scriptorium for study, and an intricate water system for ritual purity. They were a people living on the edge of the world, both geographically and eschatologically, waiting for a divine sign. This orderly, disciplined existence was the very forge for the radical ideas captured in their sacred scrolls. Within the heart of Qumran lay the scriptorium, the intellectual and spiritual engine of the community. This was no mere workshop. It was a sanctuary. Here, dedicated scribes undertook the sacred burden of preserving and propagating God's word. The room was one of intense, silent concentration. Scribes sat on plaster benches, using inkwells made of clay or bronze. Their ink, a carefully prepared mixture of carbon soot, gum arabic, and oil, was applied to meticulously prepared animal skins, parchment, and vellum. Each letter was formed with devotional precision. A mistake was not just an error, it was a desecration of the holy text. This act of copying was a form of prayer, a way of communing with the divine. They preserved the canonical books of the Hebrew Bible, but also their own unique sectarian works, community rules, hymns, and apocalyptic visions. They believed the very fate of the cosmos rested on the integrity of their work, on the unerring transcription of the ancient texts that held the secrets to the end of days. Their patient, devotional labor created a library that would outlast their entire world. Among the most startling texts unearthed at Qumran is a document known as the War of the Sons of Light against the Sons of Darkness. More than a prophecy, the War Scroll is a detailed theological and military manual for the final apocalyptic conflict. It lays out a 40-year war, a meticulously planned campaign against their enemies, whom they called the Sons of Darkness, a coalition including Romans and compromising Jews. The scroll specifies the organization of the army, the dimensions of their banners, the inscriptions on their trumpets, and the precise battle formations. It is a vision of total, cosmic war. Priests would sound the trumpets for advance and retreat, their calls acting as a conduit for divine power. The battle was not to be won by human strength alone. The scroll describes heavenly armies, legions of angels led by the archangel Michael, fighting alongside the Sons of Light. This document reveals the very core of the Essene worldview. A stark cosmic dualism where the universe is a battlefield between absolute good and absolute evil. For the Qumran community, Armageddon was not a distant, abstract concept. It was a tangible, forthcoming event for which they needed a practical, divinely inspired battle plan. At the center of the Qumran community's history is a commanding, yet enigmatic figure, the Teacher of Righteousness. The scrolls do not name him, but they speak of him with profound reverence. He was their founder, their guide, the one who received special revelations and interpreted the ancient prophecies for their time. According to their texts, he was a priest who was opposed and persecuted by a figure they call the wicked priest, likely a corrupt high priest from the temple in Jerusalem. This conflict may have been the catalyst for the community's retreat into the desert. The Teacher of Righteousness taught a new, stricter interpretation of the law and revealed to his followers the hidden meanings within the scriptures. He prepared them for the coming judgment and the final war. His followers saw him as the authoritative interpreter of God's will, a prophet for the end times. While his exact identity remains a subject of intense scholarly debate, his influence is undeniable. He shaped the community's theology, their ethics, and their apocalyptic expectations. He was the lens through which they understood their world, their persecution, and their ultimate triumphant destiny as the true, righteous congregation of God. The leap from the Judean wilderness to the Greek island of Patmos is not as vast as geography suggests. It is a journey of ideas carried on the invisible currents of a shared apocalyptic expectation. In the book of Revelation, penned by John of Patmos, we find startling echoes of the Essene worldview. The dualistic struggle between the Sons of Light and the Sons of Darkness from the Qumran War Scroll finds a powerful new voice in Revelation's cosmic conflict between the forces of God and the armies of the beast. Both texts are saturated with military and angelic hierarchies, detailing a final, preordained battle that will purify the world. Is this mere coincidence? Or was the intellectual and spiritual climate of first-century Judea, heavily influenced by Essene thought, the fertile ground from which Revelation's visions sprang? The language of righteousness, the concept of a messianic figure leading the final charge, and the promise of a new, perfected Jerusalem, these are not just parallel themes, they are threads of the same theological tapestry. The Essenes were writing a script for the end of the world in the desert, and decades later, on a remote island, John of Patmos appears to have been reading from a very similar page, transforming a sectarian Jewish prophecy into a cornerstone of Christian eschatology that would shape the Western imagination for millennia. To truly understand the Essenes' apocalyptic fervor, one must stand where they stood. The Qumran Plateau is not merely a location, it is a theological statement. Here, pressed between the searing Judean desert and the lifeless Salt Sea, the world is stripped to its essentials: rock, sun, and silence. This stark, unforgiving landscape was the crucible of their faith. For the Essenes, the desert was a place of purification, a spiritual fortress separating them, the Sons of Light, from the corrupt world outside. Their daily lives were a ritual of waiting, their eyes scanning the eastern horizon for signs of the final dawn. The harsh environment reinforced their dualism, the blinding sun against the deep shadows, the life-giving spring of Ein Feshka against the sterile Dead Sea. This was a world of absolutes, with no room for compromise. They believed they were living in the final days, and this desolate stage was where the opening act of the final conflict would unfold. Their prophecy was not just written on parchment and hidden in caves. It was etched into the very sand and stone around them. The wind whistling through the canyons was a whisper of angelic armies, the heat a foretaste of divine judgment. The landscape was their co-author, shaping a vision of the end so potent it would survive the ruin of their community and the passage of empires.